Welcome to Charting Change in Legal. I'm Ari Kaplan, an analyst that covers the legal industry, and here with my friend.
Caroline Hill. I'm, I'm the editor of Legal IT Insider. Great to be here, Ari. How you doing?
I'm great. Great to see you. I love the transition. Interesting several weeks since we spoke in legal. Interesting only because it has been fairly calm.
Actually, they say that these days the summer doesn't get quieter. Like there's this expression, oh, July and August used to be quiet and now it's just as busy. I actually think this year it is a little quieter. People are going on holiday. I don't know what that says, but I feel like, there's still plenty of announcements and news and stuff going on, but it does feel quieter, which is a relief.
Well, I always get the sense that it's sort of in between. And in fact, I had hosted one of my legal tech mafia breakfasts last week, and it was quite crowded. And I think it's partially there's nothing else happening at the time. People are finished with all the amazing events that happen in June. They're getting ready for the amazing event in terms of ILTACON that will happen in August. And so it's an interesting period, though. I do get the sense there's a lot of heads down, focused work on what really matters. People took back all the things that they picked up in the spring and are trying to implement it and maybe even share the initial results of what they've done in the late summer, early fall.
Yeah, it's a nice way to look at it. Yes, I think it's
That's what
funny.
I do. I find a
There's a
nice
little,
way.
there's a
I
little
find the nice way to look at it. Anyway,
yeah, of
sorry.
course you do.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a little reprieve between the millions of conferences and ILTACONs. There's a tiny reprieve, which is welcome, I have to say, because it's hard to get any actual work done when you're at conferences 24/7. Everyone is ramping up for ILTACON. They've obviously, it's quite funny because they've obviously they published various databases, and you see, and when they publish the media database because suddenly the inbox blows up. It's like, would you like to come to our booth? And I find it so overwhelming every year. And every year I go, I think I could have done that better, and I think I could have seen more people, and I feel like, um, but yeah, it's kind of fun. I tell you what, on a funny, interesting note that you would maybe be interested to hear. So our one listener, Tom, connected me with somebody who is looking to do a law degree. He hasn't even started his degree. He's super young and extremely capable. And we were talking about, Tom said, could you, Tom Pearson at Fulcrum, could you talk to him about a future in law and what that means and the shifting sands? And it was fascinating, super young, very early on, almost too early, really, a little bit, because but it was really interesting talking it through with somebody who's just at the very beginning of thinking about a law degree and what I would tell them, about what to think about and what they should study. And it felt like a bit of responsibility, to be frank. And I was just like, okay, well, so everything is changing. Law firms haven't really got it completely figured out right yet in terms of what your training is going to look like and the impact that tech will have on it. And actually, the only thing I can really advise you is to do a course that has a very strong tech part of it and just do as much as you can to understand technology and the law. I don't know if would you have said anything different?
When I was in law school, there was some discussion of all the things you can do with a law degree, and the list wasn't really that long. You would be a lawyer, you could work your way up and, become an elevated lawyer in terms of a partner or some senior role. Maybe you can go in-house. I feel like I, as much as I'm not sure how I would feel about encouraging a career in the law. If you're set on a career in the law, I think there are amazing things that you can do now that just didn't exist before. And you're right, being interested in technology or almost honing your ability to be curious and coachable and to learn. Because every time I ask leaders, when I'm sure you have the same questions when you're interviewing somebody or when I'm featuring someone on the virtual lunch or wherever, I always ask, what are the qualities you're looking for? And they don't necessarily say technical acumen specifically, but they say things that surround it, like curiosity, and enthusiasm and adaptability. And you can't, you have to apply that to something. So we apply it to technology. But if someone who's going into the profession, you know, tries to hone the sort of skill of being curious and finding practical ways to demonstrate curiosity and adaptability and real genuine interest, I think that will really give them an advantage over their peers who are focused on legal acumen, right? And I think that there's an interesting opportunity there for anyone that's pursuing this to realize that the profession is has always been multifaceted, but in this way, it's sort of multidisciplinary and multifaceted, right? It's this a combination there that you have to figure out how
Yeah.
to align. So I think you give great advice,
It's
of
that there
course.
and actually that human element. So that's interesting. I feel like you're so spot on. Curiosity keeps coming up. So Jeremy Coleman just joined Contract Pod AI from Norton Rose Fulbright. He was saying that and as much it was much about the people. He's obviously a huge fan of the tech, but it's working with people who have that culture of curiosity and that sort of huge desire for change and obviously the capability. But I feel like when you're going into the profession, it's hard, isn't it, to demonstrate curiosity on a CV? I agree with you completely. And this human factor keeps coming up. And I did a webinar the other day, and more now we're talking about the human side of technology. And I did this webinar with Net Documents where we were talking about the exhaustion of change and how they were doing their like 5 steps. It was like a masterclass, an AI masterclass, and it was really much keep putting the human at the center of everything you do and understand that there is a human there and so there's that side of it as well, which keeps coming up. I think for people coming into the profession though, just to go back to that, it's interesting because you it's hugely competitive. It's going to get more competitive because what's going to happen to those junior roles? Like, let's be honest, there's already an impact probably. So it's like, how do they differentiate themselves? I feel like they're going to have, as well as putting on paper, I have a culture of curiosity, which is a great point. I feel like they're going to have to start to really think about how do they develop their tech skills, and obviously, hopefully, the classes will start to evolve more and more. The college, etc. I feel like it's always been a little bit behind. There's some progress, but I feel like maybe they're going to have to start really thinking about that themselves. Like, what extra miles do I need to put in order to really pursue that tech side of things?
And they'll have to, I would imagine, start adding things to their resume, like having taken random CLE classes that are specifically associated with the large language models or some sort of, the change between generative AI and agentic AI, or they'll have to participate, listen in on one of your webinars and list that. And the people would say, why would you participate in this webinar aside from its, gifted host of the webinar? It would be, well, the topic, I'm super curious. And I think they would have to add things that beg the question, why did you do this? And the answer and the conversation then would follow as, well, I'm very curious. And I thought it was super interesting that they were talking about the 5 steps for this or how you navigate change fatigue. And that you really bring up a great point. It's fun. We should have more discussions about what new entrants to the profession should do to
Yeah.
to position themselves. So
I like
I
I like the fact that she joined a webinar, Ari. They could join my mum. My mum likes to join my webinars. She's got this culture of curiosity. And then she goes, I don't like to drop off because it looks like then people are leaving. So then she listens to the whole thing, which must make absolutely no sense. But
Amazing. There was a time when my mother was the only person who would be on the webinar. And I'll always be grateful for that, Mom. Anyway, look, what a wonderful, I love the abbreviated, the fact that we can punch in incredibly valuable, at least to the two of us and maybe to Tom, information. But I think it's important. This is an important topic. I look forward to our ILTACON
yeah,
prep session in a couple of weeks. And, I'm grateful as always for the time to chat with you.
so nice talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Charting Change and Legal. Signing off.